Good afternoon and welcome to St. Newsfile. I'm Cindy Lettick. Louise Van Dam will have a look at sports coming up, but first let's check in with Storm with the weather. How's it looking out there, Storm?
You know what, Cindy? We are actually experiencing some pretty mild temperatures today. Probably the last nice day that we can expect, especially throughout the weekend. We're sitting at +7 right now, which this time last year we were sitting at -5, which isn't as bad as our record low, which was back in 1893, where they reached a low of -44. So we do have a bit of a cold warning coming through the province, but it definitely won't be that bad for sure. So we need to brace ourselves. Back to you, Cindy.
Wow. Okay, so that's a seriously cold temperature. -44?
Oof.
No, thank you. No, thank you. So I hear that the Trojans men's basketball team had quite the comeback on Friday night. How did that play out?
Yeah, absolutely. So the men's Trojans team had their first loss of the season, heartbreaking to watch, absolutely, against Olds, who was definitely ranked lower than them in the league, but luckily they were able to redeem themselves the next day against the same team and totally blew them out of the water. And we're going to have a look at that a little bit later on.
Okay, perfect. Now here's a look at today's top stories. It's an issue that has environmentalists crying foul. Many oil companies that go out of business leave behind well sites that are not maintained and can become a problem. The Supreme Court ruled today on what the industry has to do about these abandoned wells. And Kyle Hutton has been following the story for us and joins us live from the St. Newsroom. Kyle, Alberta's Minister of Energy, Margaret McQuaid-Boyd, responded to the Supreme Court of Canada's decision today. What was her take on it?
Well, Cindy, the Supreme Court is fixing a loophole that allowed companies to leave behind well sites without decommissioning them first. Bankrupt companies will no longer be allowed to skimp off on their cleaning duties. Since 1966, Alberta has had legislation that made oil companies prove they had an asset base that would cover any of the costs of their well operations or closures. So if the facilities were decommissioned and sold, the residual funds would be enough to cover the costs of orphaning the well properly. These regulations have existed for a while, but the problem is the enforcement of the rules.
Just like all regulations, regulations are only as good as the enforcement. So if the enforcement wasn't up there and then certain players ended up getting away with certain transactions, it starts to become part of the process. And, would you call it an unintended consequence? Well, perhaps.
Esposito believes things are getting better, and this will create more transparency and fairness within the industry, as well as our environmental policies. The loophole that companies were using to skirt the regulations after filing bankruptcy so they can avoid cleanup fees has finally been addressed.
This is, as I say, a problem that has taken a long time to develop, but today's announcement was heartening because it said that bankruptcy isn't permission to break the rules. So, it's not a license to break the rules. So I think that's good news, and that helps us move forward.
The majority of companies do their due diligence and follow up properly, but a few bad apples have led to the closing of the loophole, and now the industry knows exactly what they're responsible for. Simply put, if you make a mess, clean it up. Back to you, Cindy.
Kyle Hutton reporting live from the SAIT studio. Alberta is slowly easing mandatory oil production cuts because of a slight increase in oil prices over the last 2 months. February and March will see a limit of 3.63 million barrels a day. January saw a maximum of 3.56 million barrels a day. Last month, the province ordered the production of raw crude oil and bitumen by almost 9% in order to drive up the price of oil. Premier Rachel Notley says the temporary cuts to oil production appear to be working, but she says the long-term solution has to include more pipelines in order to get our oil to the markets. It's a shocking number. Close to 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. That number escalates among students who are here from other countries. As Andrea Ferrari reports, here on campus and at a provincial level, people are working hard to stop the violence.
Sexual assault continues to be an issue across the globe. Here in Canada, government and advocacy groups are working to prevent it altogether. It's a real challenge at Canadian universities and colleges, where there are often a lot of young women from abroad. Students coming from other countries often are not aware of all the laws in Canada to protect them against acts of sexual violence. So informing them before an incident happens eliminates some of that risk. Here at SAIT, the Students' Union is working hard to ensure the proper resources are in place to keep all students safe.
It can be a little scary for women to be alone on campus, especially if it's later on at night or they're in a secluded area. SAIT and SAITSA have been working hard with the Canadian government to ensure proper policies are being implemented on campuses across Canada so everyone can feel safe.
We have created a standard of sexual violence policies. Right now, there's a mandate that all schools have to have sexual violence policies, but there's no standard. So it's different at Alberta University of the Arts, it's different at SAIT, it's different at U of C, it's different at SAMRU, it's different at U of C, it's different all over the place. We need a standard. We need to make sure one student is protected and they're all protected the same way.
Kohler is the VP External for SAITSA and is part of a lobbying group that has come up with 10 standards to prevent sexual violence. If all goes well, the hope is these policies will be brought into all post-secondary schools here in Alberta. But while that is in the works here at SAIT, they have also been working on updating their sexual violence policies to ensure the proper standards are being met. International student Isabella Cancino says she appreciated when one of her teachers approached her personally to let her know of all the services available to keeping her safe.
Promote all these services during the year, because an emergency or a sexual assault can happen anytime. Could happen at the beginning of the semester, in Halloween, Christmas, I don't know. So I think there's a lot of spaces to promote those things or to approach to students, maybe send an email.
If you are ever unsure of the services SAITSA provides, check out their app called SAIT Alert, which has plenty of ways to keep you safe on and off campus. For SAIT Newsfile, I'm Andrea Ferrari.
Alberta and the City of Calgary have officially signed an agreement to provide $1.53 billion towards the Calgary's Green Line LRT project. The line will stretch 46 kilometers across 28 stations from 16th Avenue North to Shepherd in the southeast. Mayor Naheed Nenshi says the project will give Calgarians a much-needed boost in the economy.
It means we can move forward. We can push forward on getting this project out to market. We can push forward on creating 20,000 direct and indirect jobs in Calgary, something that's absolutely critical in terms of economic stimulus at this time. We got to get those jobs out of the market right away.
The Green Line project is expected to be completed by 2026. Calgary's real estate market is expected to remain a buyer's market well beyond 2019. The Calgary Real Estate Board says several factors are to blame for the standstill. CREB says a weak job growth market, slow growth, high inventory, and high interest rates haven't restored consumer confidence. Chief economist Anne-Marie Lurie says the employment market needs to improve and the state of the energy sector will need to see a shift in order to boost consumer confidence for the long run. Current projections show the city's residential prices to fall by 2.34% next year. A Canadian pharmacy retailer has partnered up with Alberta Health Services to launch a quick and efficient screening for hepatitis C. 5 local London drugstores now offer the test on site. The test costs $24 and it only takes a quick prick of the finger. Results are given in about 20 minutes with an accuracy of 99%. AHS estimates that there are nearly 24,000 people in Alberta who might have Hep C and not even know it. The disease is a dangerous one because it can take years for symptoms to show up. AHS recommends anyone born between 1945 and 1975 to get the Hep C test just to be safe. The Calgary police have charged 4 men with drug offenses after discovering an organized fentanyl lab in a Forest Lawn house garage. Investigators seized just over 900 fentanyl pills, 178 grams of fentanyl powder, morphine, and a handgun in the bust. CPS said the lab also contained a pill press and other drug paraphernalia. The dangerous opioid has been linked to thousands of fatal overdoses across Canada. Mental health is a growing concern for Calgarians of all ages, but the stigma behind it and support to fix it is changing. Yesterday, the City of Calgary announced $3 million in funding towards mental health programs in our city. 19 organizations will receive the money to help with their programs. Mayor Naheed Nenshi says our city needs solid options to deal with the mental health crisis.
Day on short-term issues around mental health, but that we are also working together to create the most comprehensive and the most innovative long-term community strategy on mental health and addiction that any community has ever seen.
The city is working on its 5-year plan to find better ways to tackle mental health issues and addictions in Calgary. It's always nice to have a gourmet dinner, but most of us don't think about cooking it ourselves. SAIT's alumni team wants to change that notion. As Tanner Strauss reports, SAIT chefs can teach you to cook like a pro, and the best part is you get to eat it too.
I want to welcome everybody tonight.
A Taste of Eastern Europe is only one of many alumni events SAIT holds every year. This one was at the Culinary Campus in downtown Calgary and was led by current SAIT instructor Andrew Keane. Chef Keane is very passionate about his job and is always happy to teach students both past and present.
Whether they're brand new students, new to cooking, most people are a bit more mature, have cooked and been around a kitchen, whether it's at home or a commercial kitchen, but they kind of understand things. But it's either teaching them new tricks or refining the ones they already know. So to me, it's all exciting.
So that caramelization.
After a little bit of prep work, everybody was able to get their hands dirty and start preparing a meal which consisted of stroganoff, pierogies, and kubasa sausage. Everything was delicious, but everybody had a favorite.
I would have to say the pierogies because that was a labor of love.
The stroganoff, actually. We really, everybody thinks they know how to make a stew, but I maybe showed them a few techniques.
Keeping alumni coming to these events is very important for SAIT. A lot of people get to try something they never got to do with their time here, and keeping them engaged is also very important for the Institute's future.
They tend to give when it's something that is important to them and they actually see a benefit. So if they can see the programs and the equipment that students learn on and see that students are being successful and going out and getting jobs and they have a part in that success, then it only increases the level of pride they have.
With a group of more than 200,000 strong, SAIT alumni are a powerful force in our community. So even after your time here is come and gone, always remember, once a Trojan, always a Trojan. For SAIT Newsfile, I'm Tanner Strauss.
Now I'm hungry. Those are today's top stories. We'll have your full forecast after the break. But first, Storm has a look at what's going on around Calgary this week.
The Canmore Winter Carnival is a favorite for locals and visitors alike. Enjoy activities such as ice carving, skating parties, street hockey, and more. From February 1st to the 10th, head to Canmore and check it out. Admission is free. Come and explore Alberta's wildlife this Friday at the Bow Habitat Station. Check out different stations and learn more about Alberta's rodents. Starting this Friday at 10 a.m., admission is free. This Saturday, head over to the Westgate Community Hall for their annual Winter Festival. Join them for fireworks, crafts, music, and skating from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Join the Chinese Cultural Center this weekend as they celebrate the Lunar New Year. The celebration will include lion dances, firecrackers, lantern displays, and more. All ages are welcome and admission is free. It's time to celebrate the Year of the Pig. Head down to the Marlborough Mall this Saturday for entertainment and performances from Chinese dancers. Admission is free.
Food, a basic necessity for everyone, but not everyone can get it for themselves or can afford it for that matter. But this is where Meals on Wheels comes into help. Meals on Wheels is a non-for-profit in Calgary. Their main objective is to promote health and independence in the community. Meals on Wheels does this by providing and delivering quality, nutritious, and affordable meals for everyone in our community. Meals on Wheels values their clients and understands their situation and needs. So short-term or long-term, Meals on Wheels is here to help.
Welcome back. Before I touch on the weather, I did want to just mention that Alberta has put out an extreme weather warning across the province, and Environment Canada has just released a list of advisories for anybody who's planning on being on the road. As you can see, they are advising drivers to postpone travel and do things like make sure their headlights are clear and they're staying behind vehicles when visibility is low. But I'll touch base on that after this. Now looking at the map, in Vancouver, they're experiencing some pretty average temperatures for that area. But as we move over into the prairie provinces, Edmonton is only at 2 right now, but we can expect some really low temperatures up there, as low as -30 throughout the weekend. Same as we move into Manitoba, the southern part of Manitoba can expect temperatures below -40. So definitely keep that in mind if you're in that area. Now moving over to the east, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax facing similar conditions at the moment, but southern Ontario is expecting a lot of snow and temperatures below -25, so definitely be wary of that if you are in that area. Now let's take a look at our resorts. It's stunning in Palm Springs as they reach +18 today. Down in Barbados, it's time to hit the beach. They sit at +29. In Cancun, they're at 26. In Honolulu, surfers can enjoy a high of 22. It's not as sunny down in Orlando. They are at 16. And it's a little bit chillier in Vegas. They are at 11. So today in Calgary, we are probably experiencing our last nice weather for the next little bit. We are sitting at 5 at the moment, mainly sunny, a slight wind headed south 4 kilometers an hour. We can expect some flurries throughout the evening, but more snow coming throughout the weekend. Now let's take a look at the map. It looks like I won't be the only storm in the province this weekend. We can expect a lot of snow and a lot of cold weather throughout, especially in that northern Alberta area. Fort McMurray is at 17 right now, Edmonton only at -2, but we can expect that to drop down to -30. Now moving into central Alberta area, Calgary, Red Deer, we can expect up to 15 centimeters of snow. So definitely this weekend would be the weekend to stay in and stay warm. Now let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. So tonight we can expect some freezing rain, which would make for some pretty poor driving conditions. Moving into the weekend, temperatures dropping well below -25, up to -29 by Monday. Now let's take a look at our snow report. There has not been any snow over the past 72 hours on any of our neighboring ski mountains, but that could change this weekend. At Sunshine Village, they have majority of their runs open and a base of 143 centimeters. Over at Panorama, they only have a base of 63 centimeters, but all of their runs are open, as well as all of their lifts. Here in Calgary, Canada Olympic Park could really use some more snow this weekend. They have a base of 6 centimeters and 9 runs are open. It's +3 over there as well. Out in Lake Louise, they have a base of 109 centimeters. Most of their runs are also open today, and it's pretty nice out there. They're only sitting at -7. At Nikiska, they have all of their runs open and a base of 84 centimeters. It's also only -3. Then over to Norquay, they are getting all of the sunshine today. It's -2, and all of their runs are opened and groomed.
Okay, Louise, some juicy matchups tonight. Tell me about it.
Absolutely. We have a lot of exciting games going on tonight. The first, we're going to be looking at that Trojans game I was mentioning earlier. The Trojans men's basketball team has been killing it this year. They stormed out of the gate to gain a record of 14-1, and they're showing almost no signs of slowing down. The only speed bump in their season so far was the shocking 81-80 loss they took last Friday to the lower-ranked Olds College Broncos. But they made no mistake the next day when they faced the Broncos again, defeating them 109-76. Although it was tough taking their first loss, the team's star player is still confident in his team's abilities.
Average about 15 to 20 points more than the other team. So even if they do have a great shooting night, most of the time they just can't keep up with the pace that we're running at.
The The team has only 6 games left in the season, starting tonight with a matchup against St. Mary's Lightning. St. Mary's has a scoring average of 77 points per game compared to Saint's 100, which leads the league. It is an absolute logjam at the top of the ACAC men's hockey standings. The St. Trojans currently occupy the 2nd spot with 28 points. They're only 2 points behind the Nate Ooks for the top spot and are tied with Red Deer College. As Christian Oldell reports, the Trojans are in a comfortable position, but they can't afford to let their guard down.
The St. Trojans men's hockey team has found themselves in a dogfight for first place. The Trojans are trailing only 2 points behind their rival Nate Ooks for first place in the ACAC, along with Red Deer College. The men have enjoyed a fantastic season all around. They've won 14 of their 19 games this year, including winning each of their last 5. In 4 of those games, the Trojans scored more than 6 goals. Just because the Trojans are on a break right now doesn't mean they can let up at all. Only 5 points separate the first place Ooks from the 5th place Athabasca University Vikings, and the players surely know how important winning is down the stretch.
I think the biggest thing for us is we know that over the last 2 weeks we got a pretty, I'm not going to say easy 4 games, but they weren't against top teams in the league, and so I really think that just over the next 6 weeks we know what's coming at us, and I think we're going to prepare for that and do everything we can.
Leading the Trojans this year in scoring are captain Dean Allison, sniper Eric Cranky, and Owen LeClaire. And the 3 are the top 3 scorers in the league, with Allison at 30 points in 19 games. In net, Peyton Lee and Jordan Cartney have both been rock solid. Both netminders have a goals against average under 3 and save percentages in the 900s. However, going into the final leg of the season, the Achilles heel of the Trojans has been discipline. They lead the league in penalty minutes by a large margin, and the penalty kill has struggled at times. The other teams at the top are very strong on their power play.
We took a lot of penalties at the start and have kind of lowered them throughout. So I think really it's just buying in. The guys have had kind of more time to get to know each other, more time to really, start to love each other as a family. And so I think that that's really just the difference is nobody's taking selfish penalties anymore. Everybody's in it for the team, and that's just the biggest difference.
With a 5-game win streak and some good momentum going into the playoffs, the St. Trojans have a good chance to put their name up on the wall of champions. For St. Newsfile, I'm Christian Oldale.
The Calgary Hitmen are in a dogfight for the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, and there's a lot riding on their clash with the Brandon Wheat Kings. But this isn't just any ordinary game. It's a chance for the Calgary Hitmen to honor their heritage, since they'll be playing it from the old Stampede Corral. Danny Seymour has been following this story for us and is coming to us now live from the Stampede grounds. Danny, can you tell us a bit more about the game?
Yeah, Louise, a lot of great hockey was played over many years right here at the Corral. And a lot of people who helped build that rich history of this arena got together today to reminisce about the good old days.
It's really been a hub of activity in Calgary and really a magical place for many of us Calgarians.
As the days of the Stampede Corral come to a close, the Calgary Hitmen are honoring the rink's hockey history with 3 throwback games. In this weekend's action, the Hitmen will wear jerseys from junior teams of the past, the Calgary Cowboys, the Calgary Wranglers, and the Calgary Centennials. Many alumni got together at the Saddle Dome today to reflect on the good times they had playing in the Corral.
Hockey players love to reminisce, and that's been a blast listening to stories about the teams that I wasn't around, and it's just as interesting as listening to ours.
The Hitmen's work in paying their respect to the history hasn't gone unnoticed by alumni and fans alike either.
It's just an amazing thing that they're doing it, and I think it's well deserved in terms of keeping the Corral in your memory.
The Hitmen play the games on February 1st, 6th, and 8th against the Brandon Wheat Kings, the Regina Pats, and the PA Raiders. Respectively, those games all start at 7 p.m. Back to you, Louise.
That was Danny Seymour reporting live from Stampede Corral. Moving on to the National Hockey League, there are 3 games tonight with only 1 Canadian team in the mix. The Boston Bruins have put goaltender Tuukka Rask on IR, recalling Zane McIntyre for their matchup against the Philadelphia Flyers. And almost 4 months into the season, the New York Rangers will finally be able to play their arch rivals, the New Jersey Devils. The Rangers will be looking to rebound from their 1-0 shutout loss to the Flyers on Tuesday. And the Winnipeg Jets will be on home ice for the first time in a few weeks as they face the Columbus Blue Jackets. The top 2 teams in the NBA's Eastern Conference will be squaring off in Toronto. Tonight's game is Toronto's and Milwaukee's 4th and final meeting of the regular season. It's sure to be an exciting game as the Bucks hold only a half-game lead on the Raptors for first place in the East. Both teams boast 2 of the NBA's top-scoring players, Kawhi Leonard and the Greek Freak, and are both in the race for league MVP. The Raptors beat the Bucks 123-116 in their last matchup at the beginning of the month. Adetokounmpo had a game-high of 43 points to go along with 18 rebounds. Tip-off for tonight's game is at 6 p.m. And that's a look at sports.
Coming up after the break, going vegan.
Country Hospice Society, creating an atmosphere of care and dignity for those we serve.
Bros, cabs are here in 45.
Oh, screw that, man. I'll drive.
You sure, man? You look pretty drunk. Man, just let him drive. All right, he can drive. Let's go then.
I don't know if I should drive today, guys.
Veganism can be an intimidating or challenging lifestyle, but as Devin LeChuck reports, it can be a lot easier than it seems, especially when you have help from other vegans.
It's called by Nan, N-A-N, because it's a nickname, you know, because my real name, Thai people have a long name, it's Tipawadi.
Nan is the owner of Heart's Choices, a vegetarian and vegan booth here at the farmers market. Nan and her husband moved here from Vancouver, BC in hopes of finding a variety of vegan and vegetarian options, but when they arrived, they were met with an unpleasant surprise.
We come from BC, you know, from Vancouver, which is have lots of vegetarian food, vegan food, and when we came here, we were surprised that we don't have a lot of food for us. So this is something that we kind of thinking that maybe we could bring it in for ourselves first.
After learning about how little vegan and vegetarian options there are in Calgary, Nan stumbled upon the farmers market, which helped give her a step in the right direction.
And we walked into this place, and that booth, this was only 10, one booth only, was empty. So we went and talked to the managers, and the manager said, yeah, you can start it. That was 7 years ago.
Wow, she's a pretty cool
Interesting
character.
lady, for sure.
What about you? Have you ever thought about going vegan?
You know, I love meat way too much, and I'm a farm girl, so I don't think I could ever do that to my family.
I forgot that. No, that's fair. What about you?
You know, it's the makeup, I think, that would be the hardest part for me. Is you have to go fully, like, vegan makeup, everything, and I think that would just be, like, impossible to fully go vegan. I don't know how. I think it takes so much dedication to actually do it. Honest to God.
So get ready for a pretty cold weekend, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.